Are you an idol worshiper? Once again, before we answer, let's talk about it. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Tuesday, July 26th, 2022. Continuing where we left off yesterday in our read through the Ten Commandments, today we come to the second commandment. As usual, the commandment itself is very short, just 4 words in Hebrew, but as with several of the commandments, there is material appended to the commandment as a sort of running commentary. The commandment itself is this: you shall not make for yourself an idol, whether in the form of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them or worship them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing children for the iniquities of parents to the 3rd and 4th generation of those who reject me, but showing steadfast love to the 1000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. This commandment itself is simple and straightforward. Don't make any idols. The commentary on the commandment consists of 2 parts. First, some specificity about what kinds of idols people typically made in those days. And second, a warning to emphasize just how important God attaches this commandment. The commentaries are interesting enough, but I want to focus only on the commandment itself. That's enough to say grace over. And the obvious question is this: what is an idol? From the context of the command, it is any object made by human hands that becomes an object or focal point of worship. Nothing particularly hard to understand there. What it calls to mind is the ancient practice of carving wooden or stone statues or statuettes of particular gods, or the practice of casting them out of precious metals, such as gold. In fact, we have an excellent example of this very phenomenon just a few chapters after the commandments in Exodus. When Moses went up to the mountain to communicate with God, he was gone for 40 days. The people became antsy and asked Aaron to make gods for them. This is Moses' own brother, mind you. In response, he gathers all the gold's jewelry from the people, makes a mold, melts the gold, and pours the gold into the mold. When it cools down, he breaks open the mold to reveal a golden calf for the people to worship. Could it have represented Yahweh to them? Perhaps. But even then, it would still count as idolatry, for it is a human contrivance, a man-made item purporting to represent God. And if human-made, then by definition, less than God. But it's not just because it's made by human hands. The problem is that nothing humans can make can possibly represent God in all of God's infinite glory. So even to make some kind of physical representation of God calls our attention away from God himself. When we create any kind of image to represent God, 2 things go immediately wrong. First, whatever we create simply serves to reveal what we think God is. We, in effect, create God in our image. And second, we tend to imbue whatever object we make with divine, even mystical powers, as if the thing itself has power to save us. In short, whatever we make to represent God is by definition a distortion of God. It's why, for example, John Calvin was so bitterly opposed even to artistic representations of Jesus. For in drawing Jesus, what do? We draw him to look like us. Take a look at most of the paintings of Jesus you know. Almost invariably, he's painted in the form of a white European man, not as the Middle Easterner that he was. Forget the long straight hair and blue eyes. This is idolatrous because it tends to make white, European, straight-haired, blue-eyed people to be the norm of God's kingdom. Don't believe me? Take a look at portraits of Jesus in the form of other races and take notice of your internal reaction, how you feel when you see it. My guess is that you would see them as somehow shocking, distorted, wrong. John Calvin wrote an extended section in his Institutes on idolatry, and believed it was such a problem that he even forbade having crosses in his churches, lest even the empty cross itself become an object of worship. Now, we're not as strict as John Calvin was, but I guess what I'm getting at is that idolatry isn't something that was only a problem in the ancient world. It's an issue we still have to deal with today. For what is an idol except any physical representation of the divine which becomes, in effect, a cheap substitute for the one true God that we are called to worship? And any cheap substitute means that we're worshiping something that by definition is less than God. It is, in a word, idolatry. Tomorrow, don't misuse God's holy name. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.